Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Jim Lee's WildCATs number 7, cover dated January 1994, and this is chapter 3 of the Killer Instinct crossover with Mark Silvestri Cyberforce. So this cover, no caption on it, but what we have is we've got Spartan violently going up against Striker from Cyberforce. Very dynamic image, powerful by Jim Lee, inked by Scott Williams. And we don't exactly see this particular scene, not with this level of violence in the comic itself, but it's enough to get a reader to pick up the comic and buy it, no doubt, back in 1994. So let's open this one up to the credits page, go through the credits. So Brandon, Choi and Jim Lee responsible for the story. Jim Lee on pencil, Scott Williams on inks, but assisted by JD, John Ty and Rich Johnson, which means they're handling the background inks while Williams is dealing with the main figures. Joe Chiodo on colors, he's also got a couple of assistants there, and the color separators do the digital color separation on this art. Chris Eliopoulos letters, and the title of this part of the crossover is Showdown. So we pick up somewhere in the skies above Gamora off the coast of the Philippines, and we've got Striker here scoping out a landing zone and thinks it's time to go. And then we get a little biography of Striker here with his first name as well, Morgan Striker. Born a mutant with 4 arms, he learned early on in his youth to accept life's challenges and overcome them. And then getting away from Cyberdata and becoming a founding member of, and let's turn the page for a double page spread, Cyberforce. So we get Jim Lee here doing his best showy team shot of Mark Silvestri Cyberforce, and we've got little labels there for all the different characters, and it's pretty cool. It looks good. There you go. And then they're down on the ground, but we go back to the cockpit where we've got Cyblade and Misery. Misery is a villain of the crossover, but she's got telepathic powers and a forked tongue, and she has persuaded Cyberforce that the WildCATs are their enemies. And so they're down on the ground with Striker here telling the team to stay frosty. If these guys went to the trouble of blacking out our satellite monitor, they're up to something. So Ripclaw says, no, I have their scent. Heatwave, their tracks say they're nearby somewhere. So the ship is setting down, and then we go back to the Isle of the Dead, which is where the Gamorreans bury their dead. And we have these couple of randoms here who are doing a drug deal. And the last that we saw of Warblade was him falling off the side of the cliff side, having been attacked and wounded by Ripclaw, and here he is emerging from the waters and commandeering these guys' ship. He says, I need your ship, get out, in a kind of a scene reminiscent of Terminator in a way. Then we go back to Gamora, and Cyblade and Misery are joining Cyberforce on the ground. It's a nice shot of them emerging from the side of the ship, and we have Striker here who feels that something's off. He says here, nothing's showing up on any of my sensors, but my instincts tell me there's something out there. And there is here in the background. It's Spartan, and he attacks in a haze of magenta and Kirby crackle, which is pretty cool looking. So he blasts Striker here with one of his bioblasts, and then he launches right at him. Another cool anchor image from Jim Lee. And punches Striker right in the jaw, right in the metallic jaw as well. And looks like he's down on the ground. Now, one thing to note here, something's gone wrong with the colouring. It's slightly off from the black line art. You can just see it over the edge of the panel border here. Yeah, so slightly off there, and there's a few other pages in the issue where there's the same problem, which is kind of surprising, but there you go. So let's see what happens. Velocity runs to Striker's aid, but she's caught in a net formed by these filaments that emerge from Spartan's fingertips, and they basically catch her, and he swings her around in the net into some snow and ice, but Striker gets the drop on him and puts his gun to Spartan's temple. Spartan attacks him. Striker blasting away through him. Okay, yeah, that's the moment from the cover. But the cover looks just much more violent and dynamic than this. Spartan always getting blasted because he's a robot. And then we switch away to Maul going up against Impact. I like the angle on Impact here, where his face in 3/4 profile, but it's in silhouette. That looks good. And so he gets first punch in on Maul. And Maul, of course, isn't going to be put down by just one punch. And he kind of taunts Impact and says, "Is that your best shot?" "No." Replies Impact, that's great, where he just grabs this bunch of rubble here and slams it right down on Maul and says, "It'll take a bigger man than you to beat me." "I can arrange that," says Maul, because of course his power is to grow in size and mass. And Impact says, "Oh man, me and my big mouth." And to give Brandon Choi his credit, he gives Maul a funny line here: "Why don't we see if my foot fits in it?" Not too bad, because Brandon Choi, not the best of dialogue writers. And also he kind of pairs back on the dialogue there too, which lets the action flow. Then we switch to half a world away at Halo Incorporated in New York. This is the Halo building, Jacob Marlowe's building here. This is a nice shot of his tie, actually, and the little coloring design, the print on the tie is interesting. And we got a bunch of stuff about how difficult it is to run the WildCATs, how he'd like to be in the field with them, but he's trying to run a business empire too. And then he's got a meeting with a Mr. Steinman and he wants it cancelled. And she says, "I'm afraid he's already waiting for you in the conference room, sir." So he decides he'll go in and cancel it himself. And he asks the question, "How are Pris and Adriana doing?" That's Void and Voodoo. And she says they're doing fine. So we're going to have a little scene with them, just a one-pager. And here they are, because they got injured, both of them, in the previous issue of WildCATs. And Voodoo's up out of her recovery bed, and they have a little kind of heart-to-heart moment here. It is Brandon Choi and Jim Lee trying to do a bit of characterization, but it's fairly flat stuff. What's Voodoo worried about? She's worried about the rest of the team, and she's worried about dying herself. And Adriana comforts her here, saying none of us want to die, and that's why we work as a team, so that we can protect one another. Thanks, Adriana, for listening. I don't know. They're doing their best with the characterization, but these characters are still pretty flat by this point in their history. And then I like what's going on here. Again, there's a problem with the coloring. It's just slightly off again, bleeding outside the panel borders. I can see it here. But some nice work on these pages by Lee. And I like the little technique using the computers to copy images from earlier in the comic and put them on screen for the weatherman here. So we're checking in with Stormwatch. High above the Earth on board the UN orbital space station Skywatch. It's kind of like the images, or well, Wildstorm's version of a combination of the JLA and their watchtower and the Avengers. That's what Stormwatch are, and their kind of superheroes are drawn from all over the world. Hence the UN dimension of things. So Weatherman's interrupted by almost a one-page image here of these members of Stormwatch. This guy here is Cannon, is his name. And there's an A-team, Stormwatch team down on Gamora, and they're having their own little adventure, which is covered in issues 6 and 7. So there's a little promo for that, Wildstorm wanting readers to pick up all their books at this time. And it's a pretty cool image by Jim Lee. The characters look good. I don't know what this character's name is, or this one. It might be nice to work their names into the narrative captions or the dialogue. Anyway, Weatherman isn't taking this guy's suggestion regarding what they should do in relation to Gamora. And then we get this pin-up by Travis Charest. So he's made the move from DC and Marvel to Wildstorm, and that's a pretty nice image of Spartan. It's fairly simple. It's not really an action shot. It's interesting with the inking. He's inking himself on that one, and it looks pretty good. And he's moving away from the Jim Lee style, and he really kind of will develop his own style in his upcoming run on WildCATs, first with James Robinson and most particularly then with Alan Moore. So a little ad there for Gen 13, and then we get back to the story. So we've got a top-down shot, that's nice, of Maul hitting impact, and we've got Grifter here watching from above, and somebody's watching him. We've got the little silhouette shadow there. It'll turn out to be Heatwave. But I really like the way that Lee has drawn Grifter here, with this top-down view and the back of his trench coat there, and the way he's rendering the folds in the trench coat, and the fact that Grifter's hunkered down watching what's going on below. That's very nice. I like that. And then Heatwave hits him from behind, and again, this is like a device of Lee's that he uses commonly, and also it's like stylish design-wise, drawing most of the character, or rendering most of the character in silhouette, but also there's a bit of fun being had with the inking here as well. I like it. Lee does it well. Silvestri does it too sometimes. So then Heatwave lands, and he is aghast because it looks like Grifter's broken his neck in the attack, and then Grifter snaps his neck back into position, which shocks Heatwave. He thinks, you're alive, but that's impossible. And of course Grifter pulls his guns on him and starts blasting away at him. But Grifter's a good guy, so his guns are on stun setting. And then he's wondering there, where's Zealot hiding herself? So we pick up with Zealot, and she's on the tail of Ripclaw and Misery. That's a great shot. I really like this panel here as they're moving on the island and going towards the entrance to Richthofen's destroyed base, the sub-basement of it. I just like the way that Lee has dealt with these small figures. They look really good, just the body language as well. And of course, because she's so intent on stealthily following Ripclaw and Misery, she's taken unawares by Cyblade, who comes up behind her. And Cyblade is very much an analogue of Psylocke of the X-Men. She's even got a psychic blade there. And nonetheless, Zealot gets the best of Cyblade, because Zealot has a millennia of combat experience. There's a little error there by Brandon Choi, a millennium of combat experience. And that's a nice anchor image of Zealot, most particularly of Cyblade recovering from the beating she's taken. She's about to get a kick in the jaw as well. But that's nice rendering of the anatomy there. That looks good. And then we've got a nice anchor image of Ripclaw striking Zealot. Then she hits back with her blade. This is another great panel. Again, the small figures and the action and the way that the characters are posed very dynamically, especially Ripclaw and Zealot here in this one. Another anchor image of Ripclaw jumping at Zealot and striking her with his claws. He's caught her in the torso, and so she's kind of down. And then Misery and Ripclaw continue to their goal. And I like the stylistic choice here. Instead of the characters in black silhouette, he's whited them out. That's nice. He's kind of turned it into a negative. And yeah, that's effective stylistically. So you'll also see, look at these couple of pages now, and as we get to the end of the issue, there's no backgrounds here. So Jim Lee, maybe up against the deadline, he was intent on getting these issues out monthly because of the embarrassment he felt over the delays regarding the miniseries. Although he had a good excuse with the birth of his first child in the middle of it all. And we have what Misery's been looking for, the stasis pod. It's out, but the seal on the pod is intact. She's got the code to get in. And she's talking to herself here. Here it is, my love, just as you said it would be. Soon I'll begin the regeneration process and we'll be together again forever. And Ripclaw's a little confused, but I'm already here, Lydia. Oh yes, of course you are. So she's stringing him along with her scheme. Really who she's interested in is Eric Richthofen. He's the guy who developed this biosynthesized technology that is apparently going to, in effect, give them immortality. But there's somebody watching her at work through a crack in the destroyed wall. That's nice. And out comes this claw. And of course, who could this be? Somebody's behind them. Nice story, Misery says that's someone. And we're going to have a double page spread. And I'm going to have to turn the comic on its side as well to get it. And who is it except for Warblade? So he's arrived, and it's time to go another round with Ripclaw. There you go. That is a great image of a wounded and ripped up Warblade. Very cool stuff. So he says to Misery he's going to rip her heart out. We'll have to check out the final part of the crossover in Cyberforce number 3 to see if he keeps his word. And we've got a little black and white, more or less, preview image of Mark Silvestri and Scott Williams cover for Cyberforce number 3. That looks great. And then we've got some letters here regarding issues of WildCAT. Nice little image of a Daemonite here by Jim Lee. Kind of open and just filled out with color. Looks cool. An advertisement for an upcoming storyline in WildCATs, issues 10, 11, and 12, introducing Chris Claremont's Huntsman. So these were the issues that were written by Claremont. And I'll get to those, I'll get to review those in due course. So I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on WildCATs number 7. If you did like the video, please like it in YouTube. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.